Well, some things need to change for Billy Napier and the Florida Gators immediately. Not at the end of the year, not Tennessee week, now. Other things are going to be big end of the season changes. We're going to discuss both today and have a little bit of insight on one of those major changes, so stick around till the end of the video. But just before we get started, tell me what you want to see change the very most at UF over the next 11 weeks. Comment below because I want to hear from you all. My last video allowed some time for ranting about a disappointing first game of the season in year 2 of the Napier era. Judging by the hundreds of comments on the videos, many of you felt just like I did. But I do want to make a couple things clear. First and foremost, no one wants to win more than Billy Napier, his staff, and his players. I get it. You love Florida. I do too. But there is a 0% chance any football fan wants to win more than the current team. We are talking about the livelihood of every person on this staff and the football future of every team member. Even when the outcome is undesirable, this team wants to win. Sometimes I feel like this kind of gets lost in all of these conversations. We listen to fans rant and rave on social media, on call-in shows, when they're talking to their friends, when they go into work on Monday. I get it. We all take this incredibly seriously. We all want Florida to win. But I do think it's important to keep in mind that there is nobody that cares about the outcome of these games more than the people inside that locker room, win or lose. I think the next thing that is worth pointing out is not all rebuilds are the same. So we need to start comparing. I get it. LSU looks better than Florida. I got news. They had better chess pieces to begin with. Colorado won game 1 against TCU. Well, we won game 1 of the Napier era against Utah, who went on to win the Pac-12. It's too small of a sample size to compare. Napier has played 50% of his games as a head coach at Florida against top 25 opponents. That is no walk in the park. Most people predicted UF to win 8 games or less. And listen, most were less. I was the 8, okay? So losing a game that many predicted Florida was going to lose should not be cause for jumping ship. I still believe Napier is the guy to get it done at UF, but I think he needs 2 things: time and the ability to self-reflect and make adjustments. There is absolutely nothing about Billy Napier that makes me think that he is too stubborn or too arrogant to change. He took accountability in his press conference yesterday, and now it's time to see action. I watched that press conference, and I hope you did too. And he talked about execution. Execution is important. Over the spring and the summer, you are just honing in on your fundamentals, and you're getting these guys ready for moving into the regular season. Florida needs to improve on execution. Billy Napier took accountability for that. And one of the things that he said is that progress is messy, and that's also true, okay? We don't know what we have until these games start. But there's a lot of areas that we can get better at quickly that will help the rest of the season immensely. So let's talk about those kind of fixes. On the short term, special teams. Make it a priority. Open practice with it every single day. Put your very best players on special teams. You want your A players, your stars on special teams. If they need a break, that's got to need to come on offense or defense, not on special teams. Stress the importance. It is a privilege to play on special teams. You only need guys out there that you 100% trust. Special teams is not the place to cut your teeth. I've seen fans make comments on how there isn't enough time to focus on it when you're trying to build offensively and defensively. Y'all, I am throwing a flag on that. There are 3 phases to this game, and they are all important. Special teams changes the outcomes of games every single weekend. It needs to be a priority for Napier. I honestly think coaches either care about special teams or they don't. But when you do not have the biggest and fastest and strongest team out on the field on Saturday, you sure as heck better take advantage of every opportunity you can to exploit your practice, your ability to game plan, your ability to think ahead of your opponent. Special teams is where you get that done. Billy Napier needs to prove that he is a coach that cares about special teams. And for God's sake, teach every single person on that team, plant your heels on the 10 and do not move back. The next thing that I think we can change before we even go into McNeese State, urgency. Have some. This team has heart. This team did not look like they were playing with urgency, though. It didn't look like we practiced the 2-minute drill at every practice. And listen, I'm not saying they don't. They very well may. But you need to practice that 2-minute drill at the end of every single practice, ones versus ones. It needs to be intense. It needs to happen with so much repetition that these guys can do this in their sleep. They did not look prepared for the 2-minute drill. And these new clock rules have made it even more imperative that this is something that these guys can do in their sleep. The other thing that they can improve is intensity. Every player needs to be doing their absolute best every single rep. It is not good enough to be your man if you are not doing your absolute best while doing it. I think about practice. Are we telling these guys when they're going against each other, okay, offense, you did a great job because you beat that defender? He's not if he didn't give 100% effort during that play. It is not good enough that he beat him. He has to beat him at his full strength, best of his ability. You cannot teach speed. You can't change it, right? But you can change intensity. This team does not lack heart. They do not lack effort, but they did lack intensity on Thursday night. But the good news is that can be fixed, and it can be fixed quickly. The next thing that I think is a quick fix is better third down play calling. Napier had said in his press conference that his focus is on first and second down so that he's not creating difficult third down situations for his team. And I get that concept. I do. But I don't know that I think this offense is far enough along that those situations aren't going to arise. Okay, you are going to get in tricky third down situations. So we've got to do a better job on play selection. Short passes that require the receiver to make a play to get the first down does not make sense here. Let the players make plays in other ways. Okay, think about when he threw that long ball to Caleb Douglas and he mossed that defender. He made an incredible play. If we're going to put our players in a situation where they have to make a play, let it be something like that instead of making them catch the ball, but then also making them run to get that first down. Both of those are a gamble, right? I would rather take that long pass or intermediate pass that's past the sticks. Let's do that. That makes a lot more sense for this offense, and that's an easy change. And then the last thing I think we can work on is procedural penalties. But I want to talk about this for a minute. They were really frustrating, but also somewhat understandable. Florida was without their starting center, Kingsley Eguakun. They had a whole new front five. Game 1 against a top 15 opponent. Most people in the country are starting against, the Sisters of the Blind. We were not. Top 15 opponent. I think it's more important to wait to see if this becomes a pattern before we get overly concerned about penalties. I think they can, for now, we can chalk this up to first game jitters and inexperience. But the caveat to that is this line needs to get better in a hurry. We heard a lot this offseason. I was one of the people talking about it because it's the intel we were hearing from practice that this offensive line was really good and really deep. Now it's time to see it. Shake off those first game jitters and let's move forward. But I do think all of the things that we all complained about in the game look very different if we play a weak opponent week 1 and we win by 50, even if we have all of these same mistakes. You kind of forget about it because you just look at the box score at the end of the day. A lot of this has to do with the fact that we are playing the reigning Pac-12 champion on the road to open this season. So listen, we still very well may end up 7-5, 8-4, and then we have a different take on this game. And last year, we all got too high on Florida after they beat Utah. Now it seems like everybody's too low on Florida after they lost to Utah. But this might be a better thing for that team in that locker room. It might be better to say, all right, we got exposed week 1. What do we need to fix right away? Instead of, we picked off a really good team. We must be really good. This might be better mentally for Florida. Now, there are some long-term things that Florida needs to fix as well. Hire an offensive coordinator. Every Batman has their Robin. Urban had Mullen. Saban has had a slew of great ones. Kirby had Monken. Even Jimbo Fisher hired Petrino this season. There is simply not enough hours in the day for Napier to do all of his responsibilities well. That is not a knock on him. That is just reality. I think that part of this rebuild plan was 2 offensive line coaches to bolster O-line recruiting. Because listen, your successful lines are the foundation of being a good team, strong line play. But I do think he's going to have to transition to 1 offensive line coach and an OC, because somebody else needs to be calling these plays. It is not a knock on Napier. There are just too many responsibilities for him on game day. I also think he needs to hire a real special teams coach. If I'm Napier, I'm considering giving these responsibilities to Billy Gonzalez. He can handle them. He's had them before. He came up under Urban, who is one of the, fathers of special teams. Obviously Frank Beamer is the original, but Urban taught the world how important special teams were in the SEC in the 2000s. This needs to be someone's focus. And for the love of God, stop calling it game changers until it changes a game for the better. Your special teams coach needs to be on the field. Whose job is it to put personnel on the field if you are up in the box? That's how mistakes happen. It needs to be taken seriously. There are 3 phases to this game. 3. And special teams need some priority. Florida wins against Utah if they don't make all of those special teams blunders. As many mistakes as they made elsewhere, they potentially win that ball game if they don't make silly special teams mistakes. Now, the good news is there's something that I've been hearing a lot about in the last few days, and that's that there's a really good chance that Napier is going to hire an offensive coordinator this season. Not during the season unless things really go off the rail, but at the end of the year. And I think that that's going to really help improve things for the long term. I think Billy Napier is the guy. I just think he needs to continue to make tweaks, and I think he has the ability to do that. I think he has the humility to do that. And I think that the Gators are going to get better as the season goes on. We're talking about a team that is returning 6 starters total. They're young, but they're hungry and they have heart and they care about the name on the front of the jersey, as does Billy Napier. Okay, we are turning the page on Utah. It's about rebounding and getting things fixed against McNeese State. We've done our ranting. We've said what we've needed to say. Now it's time to pick our heads up and move onward. We expect it from the team, so get out of the dumps and let's get back after it. A reminder for you guys, we are live Thursday night at 8 p.m. previewing the game, so do not miss that. Thank you all for watching and being subscribed to the channel. Go Gators!